How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. The Lakers have been absolutely dominating the free agent market and have completely transformed their roster. They have managed to bring in multiple high-profile veteran names like Trevor Ariza, Carmelo Anthony, and Dwight Howard, but I feel like their additions of Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk have flown a bit under the radar. And I mean, don't get me wrong, everyone has pretty much been freaking out about what the Lakers have done in free agency overall, but I honestly feel like Rob Pelinka and the Lakers management have not gotten enough credit for the additions of Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk in particular. It is not easy to convince young players to take a pay cut to play for a contending team, especially not ones of their caliber. Both of them put up very good individual numbers last year, and they are worth well over what they will be getting paid. And it is not only that they managed to convince them to join their team on a discount, but the fact that they were exactly what the Lakers needed cannot go unnoticed either. And in today's video, we'll be reviewing why I believe they're the Lakers' most underrated additions of free agency. At this point, I think practically everyone has agreed that the Lakers won free agency. However, I personally believe that it only became blatantly obvious that they won free agency after they picked up Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk. Because while the additions of guys like Dwight Howard, Trevor Ariza, and Carmelo Anthony were great, one thing was becoming very clear as they picked up more and more veteran players. Their team was getting very old. They were adding all of these veteran players to a lineup that already included a 36-year-old LeBron and Marc Gasol, and while we cannot argue that they were good additions for only a veteran minimum contract, they desperately needed to bring in more youth. And after Alex Caruso took a contract with the Chicago Bulls, who is one of the younger players on their team, bringing in more youth became that much more critical. Having defense and experienced veteran players often does make the difference between winning a championship or not, but you still cannot hope to make it through a long NBA season without having younger players, and they clearly took notice of that by quickly coming to terms with Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk, along with bringing back Talen Horton-Tucker, all of which are well under 30 years old and all talented young players. Malik Monk will now be entering his 5th year in the NBA, but yet he is only 23 years old, and not only that, but he is coming off his best year in the NBA by far. He has somewhat of a breakout year while averaging nearly 12 points per game in under 21 minutes per game and shooting over 40% from the three-point line. Between being that young and showing that much talent on offense, you would think that he would have gotten paid big during free agency. Yet, Rob Pelinka and the Lakers management somehow pulled off signing him with only a minimum level contract. Malik Monk is not an all-star caliber player or anything, but he is definitely worth more than only a minimum contract, especially given his potential. I don't know if Rob Pelinka slipped him another check under the table, or if he is the most convincing man alive, but either way, being able to add Malik Monk for only a minimum contract cannot go underappreciated. That is the definition of a steal, and there really is no denying it. Monk has a lot of untapped potential, and he is only continuing to get better. We all know about his incredible athletic and leaping ability, but he is finally beginning to put his all-around game together. He has become an electric player off the bench and has the ability to have huge offensive games. He had a game this year where he dropped 24 points in one half, and another game where he dropped 36 points off the bench, including making 9 3-point shots in that game alone. He clearly has a lot of talent on offense, and the scary thing is, he'll probably only be the 4th or 5th option on offense while on the court. He will likely be the forgotten man by the opposing team, which will lead to some very open shots for him. I mean, when the opposing team is trying to focus on keeping LeBron, Anthony Davis, and Westbrook out of the paint, do you really think they're going to focus too heavily on Malik Monk? I sure don't, and he likely was thinking the exact same thing when he signed that contract. I predict a lot of wide open 3-point shots and backdoor cuts coming his way. Malik could low-key have some big games this year and could really make a name for himself in LA. Betting on himself by taking a minimum contract to be in the spotlight in LA on a great team could definitely work out in his favor down the road. He has the type of flashy offensive game that will get recognized and appreciated by fans. While he probably could have gotten a decent contract from a bad team this year, he could potentially be looking at a huge contract from practically every team that has money to give him if he plays well this year, and he is in a great position to do that. I personally love the addition of Malik Monk. We cannot forget about Kendrick Nunn though either. Another young player, and only entering his 3rd year in the NBA, he probably was thinking in the exact same way that Malik Monk was when taking his discount with the Lakers. And while he is getting paid a few more $1 million than Malik, he definitely could have gotten a contract worth around $10 million per year or more on a bad team if he wanted to. And if I'm being honest here, I still cannot figure out what the Miami Heat were thinking by letting him go for completely nothing. I mean, I get that they were trying to make other big moves and that they managed to bring in Kyle Lowry, but it's not like they had no room for Kendrick Nunn. And while I know that they were hard capped after acquiring Lowry through a sign and trade, I would have thought that they would make Kendrick Nunn a priority after losing Goran Dragic. But hey, their loss will definitely be the Lakers' gain. Kendrick Nunn is a talented young player and was a huge pickup for the Lakers. After losing Caruso, they were in need of a backup point guard, and Rob Pelinka did not take long to fill that void by quickly adding Nunn for a bargain contract. And while he is not the defender that Caruso is, he is a much better player on offense. Through his first 2 years in the NBA, he has a career scoring average of 15 points per game, and what makes that even more impressive is that he did it while being flipped between coming off the bench and being included in the starting lineup throughout the year. With that, he has proven to be a very good three-point shooter, which was basically a requirement from their backup point guard after adding Westbrook. Because after adding a non-shooting point guard in Westbrook, they needed their backup point guard to be able to play both on and off the ball, and Kendrick Nunn is perfect for that role. More often than not, he did play off the ball while in Miami. He was more of a secondary playmaker to Jimmy Butler, Goran Dragic, or whoever he shared the court with. And that is a role that he will continue to play into, as he will often be sharing the court with LeBron while Westbrook is on the bench. And don't get me wrong, he can create plays for others, but being able to have a point guard who can play both on and off the ball will be a luxury for them to have. His ball handling and playmaking ability will be great if they are ever dealing with an injury to LeBron or Westbrook, but at the same time, he can still share the court with either of them due to being able to play off the ball. He is both great at spotting up from the three-point line and being able to quickly create a play for himself off the dribble if needed. And while I mentioned that he is a downgrade on defense compared to Caruso, that does not mean he is a defensive liability or anything. He is actually an improving defender who does have the potential to be a good defensive player eventually, and he showed that this year. Even while the Miami Heat had a worse team this year compared to last year, Kendrick Nunn managed to improve his numbers on defense. And while you can't really tell that from regular numbers, the advanced numbers do back up that claim. He managed to improve his player efficiency rating, defensive box plus minus rating, and value over replacement rating, all of which point towards improvement on both ends of the floor. It is not easy to improve those numbers when your team declines from the previous year. But whatever way that you want to look at it, Kendrick Nunn was clearly a great addition for the Lakers. Both he and Malik Monk will both be incredibly valuable to a veteran Laker team that will rely on their youth at times throughout the year. They will each have a great opportunity to not only compete for a championship on a great team, but to learn from veteran players and then possibly get rewarded with a huge contract next year by another team. With that though, that will conclude my thoughts on why I believe Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk were underrated additions to the Laker team. I think they are somehow being overlooked on their roster full of high-profile names, and they are not getting the recognition that they fully deserve. Both are in a great position to build upon what they have done early on in their careers, and they will be a lot of fun to watch this year. But what do you guys think? How do you feel about the additions of Kendrick Nunn and Malik Monk? Do you believe that they were the Lakers' two most underrated additions of free agency? Let me know what you think about both of them by commenting down below, and we can talk about it there. That will do it for this video though. Thank you to everyone who took the time to watch until the end of the video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please remember to drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and turn on notifications to get notified right away when I drop a new video.